Khayelitsha was established in 1983 by the apartheid government, a product of forced segregation. Today, it sits on the edge of Cape Town, and over the years has grown into the country's second largest township after Soweto. Like many communities, it faces deep and persistent challenges. But for people like Mzukisi Mbane, Mamela Lutuli, and Dr. Vuyani Mhlobi, Khayelitsha is proof that your beginnings don't have to determine your future. Dr. Vuyani Mhlobi is a health innovator and entrepreneur. He co-founded Curo Medical, a digital health company, pioneering South Africa's hospital-at-home model. His journey began here, in a community marked by poverty, overcrowding, and rising crime.
I guess I had the upbringing of most young people in Khayelitsha. We were all poor. We all didn't have shoes. We all had torn school shirts. We found a way to make do with what we had. And as a result, nobody felt that, I guess, what we now experience, which is like this kind of suffocating despair of our neighborhoods. It was incredibly vibrant. Everyone was very resourceful. People were working, towards something. While there were clear threats from a crime perspective, the community itself was just so tightly knit, and people, came together to address some of those things.
Growing up, church programs kept him grounded and offered an escape from the dangers many young people faced.
Grew up as a Seventh-day Adventist, and there were a lot of programs for young people, so they kept us booked and busy. We had very structured and organized weeks. From school, every Wednesdays you'd kind of go and there'd be a program for young people. On Saturdays we'd be at church. On Sundays there'll be some other event, and I think that really kept me away from the streets, if you will. But again, I think what was very clear to me about kind of growing up back then is people genuinely wanted something better for themselves. They yearned for more. We were bused to schools outside of Khayelitsha for a better education. People got on trains commuting to look for opportunities for better employment. And there was always this kind of light in everyone. Its eyes, myself included, about how different life could be.
South Africa's healthcare system is deeply unequal, with most people relying on overstretched public health facilities. For Mhlomi, the long queues and limited resources he witnessed became a catalyst.
Big turning point for me was when we were queuing for hours on end, waiting to be seen by doctors at Khayelitsha Day Hospital. I mean, these were people that were tripping over themselves to serve the community. They were traveling far and wide to provide support, and it was clear to me that there was a desperate need for doctors. And I just wanted to fix that. I wanted to be part of the solution, and I was clear at that point that I was going to do medicine. And then on the eve of my matric exams, my mom had a stroke, and we managed to rush her to, again, Khayelitsha Day Hospital then, and then she was taken to Khayelitsha Hospital. And because of the advances in medicine, they were able to dissolve the clot that was in her brain on time. And this was the first time that I realized that actually, when the healthcare system works, it can be life-saving. I was resolute that I wanted to become a doctor. I wanted to save lives. And most importantly, I wanted to play a significant role in transforming our healthcare system.
Determined to become a doctor, he sets his sights on the University of Cape Town.
After my experiences with my dad or my parents being unwell, I was clear that I wanted to do medicine, and I would I remember I would go to university open days when they would invite, all these high school students, and I would go there. I started going there in grade 10, and I would, make my way to the health science desk, and I would ask them, so what do I need to do? What is medicine? Where are the forms? And I would, every single year from grade 10, collect these forms, and I would complete them, And then when the time came, I applied, and I received a provisional acceptance at UCT, and they said to me that you need 39 points to get in. What was terrible, though, was that on the eve of my matric exam for mathematics, I remember, that's when my mom had a stroke. And so I really felt that my entry into UCT was potentially, compromised. Fast forward, my mom recovers, she gets out of hospital. I matriculate and I, get these marks and I get in. And there's a kind of a huge excitement. But UCT at the time said, well, you need to make a 2,000 rands family contribution. We don't have 2,000 rands. And I spent a lot of time looking for cash to, support, to pay this family contribution, because it was a big amount for my family at the time. And I remember it was early February 2006. I just said to my mom, go drop me off at res. I do not know how I'm going to pay. I don't know how I'm going to get through, but there will be a way. I remember my mom was like very anxious, right? And shame, with the little that we had, we drove to Macro. She bought me this vest, this blue Adidas vest. My older brother gave me these hand-me-down oversized Billabong shorts, and I think I had some kind of flip-flops, and that was my drip for my first day at UCT. I don't know how I'm gonna I don't know how I'm gonna pay my fees. All I was clear about was that, I was gonna get in, and that was it. What was interesting, though, is that I think about 2 or 3 weeks after starting my program, I then received communication that I had qualified for, I think, a 12,000 rands, 12,000 rand scholarship, and that was how I managed to at least pay for the 2,000 rands.
He not only made it into UCT, he went on to become a Rhodes Scholar, completing a PhD and an MBA at Oxford.
I remember when we were buying these, people were buying these gowns for graduation, and I said, I will hire mine because the one I'm going to buy is a scarlet robe from Oxford. People laughed at me. They really did, right? Because the idea that this kid from Khayelitsha would somehow land up in Oxford was a bit too big a dream. And it sounded a little bit far-fetched. The reality is that if you looked at my own reality at the time, it just made no sense for a lot of people.
Today, while building systems that expand access to quality healthcare, Dr. Mhlomi is also committed to recycling privilege.
I see my role as not as some people believe, saying wait until you create wealth and then give it back and be Bill Gates. I fundamentally believe in this idea of recycling privilege. You find yourself in a better position, whether it's you're now a grade higher. And this for me, it was something that started even when I was in high school. When I was in matric, and I had an amazing mathematics teacher, but I'd come back and study at Khayelitsha Library, and there were people who were also doing higher grade back then. And I remember there was a section in mathematics called linear programming. We were going to be examined on this, and these guys have never heard of it. I spent a lot of time teaching them linear programming, right? And again, it goes to the heart of recycling privilege. I recognized that I was privileged in the education that I'd received. And as a result, I came back to, provide that there. I scaled that up when I qualified as a doctor, and I started a foundation called the MH Foundation. Again, because most people believe that nothing good could come from communities such as ours, I then started this foundation which would identify scholastically excellent students and put them in a program of support and get them to university. Unlike most scholarships or foundations back then, which would only fund these students in matric, I started journeying with them much earlier on in their high school career, and we would work with them. Most of them have now completed university education. Some of them I've got the latest cohort. One of my guys is currently completing, his studies at UCT. The point I'm trying to highlight is that I didn't do this when I was, financially in a good position, or I won a lottery, whatever the case may be. I took the privilege that I had and I recycled it. The same thing I'm doing right now as an entrepreneur. I employ, young people who come from this township. 85% of my employees are Black. A majority of them, close to 78% are under the age of 35. So these are young people who are coming from various communities in South Africa, professionals who are not getting jobs.
As a young girl, Mamela Lutuli never imagined she would one day lead a tech and cybersecurity company. The language of technology simply didn't exist in her world.
As a little girl, I was fortunate to be around business, but I never thought I would be in the cybersecurity space, nor in the technology space, because that language didn't exist in our time. I look on how privileged our kids are. For us, IT was non-existent whilst I was a little girl, So I never really dreamt of being a businesswoman, being a CEO. I was just seeing myself as someone that will strive and probably be employed for the rest of my life.
For Lutuli, Khayelitsha means gratitude.
We were quite privileged to grow up in Khayelitsha, in this sense that the education system was quite good. The high school I went to, kids from Langa, from Kukuletu, would go to Luhlaza High School. So that tells you that Khayelitsha, the education system was quite good. And those days, the environment was also safer than it is right now. We could cross night at night and go home safe. So for me, it's really gratitude.
She remembers train rides from Khayelitsha to Cape Town, simple routines that shaped her sense of independence.
I think how simple life was. I always say to my kids that it's quite sad that they can't take a train. For me, every Friday, my dad was working in Sea Point. Every Friday, I would take a train from Khayelitsha to town, from town, take a taxi to Sea Point. Life was just so simple and so basic. But those are the fondest memories, that the crime was not as bad as it is right now. And also the friends, I had good friends. The simplicity of life, will be so fulfilled and happy having had a makuinya, ne French or ne Russian. That was our lifestyle, and you go and do your haircut. You are it in those days. So life was very, very simple.
Today, she's one of the few women leading in the cybersecurity space. Her work focuses on protecting digital systems and building South Africa's cyber resilience. Her entrepreneurial drive began early, working in her mother's puzzle shop, helping run family businesses and learning to hustle from a young age.
My mother used to have a spaza shop. So all the time when I come back from school, I'll go and be helping her in her spaza shop. So I'm coming from a family of entrepreneurs, because my dad's brother also was the owner of the taxis. And also that also sharpened my entrepreneurial skills, because all the time when the taxi drivers are cashing, they cash on me. I grew up counting money, I always say that. And he also had a stand in Kwalanga, Pai Rankin, There was a second-hand clothes that we used to sell there. Every holiday, there's no holiday. You're sitting there, chiswa lilanga, but it was selling. That for me, those were the skills, the entrepreneurial skills were harnessed at an early age. But I think I'll give credit to my mother because being an entrepreneur and also being a community builder. On one of the awards I won the award from the SITA of being a community builder. I think that I also got it from her because right now her legacy still stands on in Khayelitsha because she built an old age home and she was taking care of the older people, registered an NGO at her age and made sure that these women, they never went home hungry.
Her curiosity about technology sparked a career that led her to government IT projects, to founding her own company.
When I started my career coming out of Peninsula Technical and I studied at Pentech, I was very lucky to be in Ibrahim Rasool's office and I happened to be project manager for IT services, if I were to put it that way, and for IT projects. And then this is what sparked my curiosity that clearly technology is the future. It was early 2000s when they were introducing your Microsoft, your internet, and all of that. We started working from PCs and then we moved to laptops, you know. So I realized that actually this is the future. I became very fascinated and then I started to research and understand the fundamentals. You know, so I've done all the fundamental courses. And then that's when I started my business, Take Note IT. It was more of a consulting business when I started it. And then 2013, I realized that actually there is a niche market of the security aspect of the technology because all of us now are focusing on being suppliers but no one is looking on the security aspect. Then that sparked my interest. Again, I went to online to research it, to look on the fundamentals of cybersecurity. And then the rest was history. It's really evolving on a daily basis and it's fascinating. You don't stop learning.
Women make up only 23% of South Africa's tech workforce, an imbalance that concerns her.
It's so sad, especially at this day and age, that there's still few women in the industry. And I must say also, the industry can also be very intimidating if you listen to the jargon that is being used by technical people. But I always advise women that the scope is so big and it's like running any other business. You know, obviously you need to learn and understand the fundamentals of cybersecurity, but you don't have to be sitting behind the computer and be a hacker or you know, there are technical people that are specializing on that you can collaborate with and they can do that aspect. But you need to have leadership skills, you need to have management skills that you are able to manage and structure your business. And most of all, deliver. You know, I think the most difficult aspect of our industry, there's no room for failure, you know, and you cannot be complacent. You know, you need to make sure that you've got zero trust approach in the space because any incident that happens, you know, the client will be compromised, the whole system will be down, you won't recover. So the vigilance and making sure that you are always very hands-on in your business. That's the trick about this industry.
In 2018, she launched a cybersecurity training academy to build skills and open doors for young people. More than 120 students have been trained so far.
With me being in the cybersecurity space, struggling to find the skill set, and the more I'm working on this, the more I'm seeing that actually this is not rocket science. It's just the big English that is being used and the jargon that makes people to be intimidated. It's no rocket science. This is when then the Cyber Academy was born because we sat with my technical director and we were just discussing that we're struggling, we can't find the skill set. We have to import them in India and other countries. And I said to him, but why can't we develop a training and train these young people? And on both of us, it was on a Sunday, I'll never forget. On both of us, we were sitting on Sunday working, and then just the penny dropped. that actually that's a good idea. We can develop a curriculum, we can build an LMS platform, we can train these young people, because the main thing is to learn on the job. And then this is when we came up with a curriculum for 6 months of the technical skills. We had a project in Tshwane, and we needed 30 of these young people. And we took, I would say it was a leap of faith, but it was really something that both of us, we knew that it was going to succeed. And we crafted the curriculum. We were the first to introduce it to the QCTO to get the accreditation. And then we trained these young people, we recruited them and trained them. And to our surprise, these kids were just flourishing. And then that was the huge successful cohort that we did. And then we never looked back since. We've done different cohorts. For me, it was based on the need within our organization. I never thought that it would be something that is giving me, forget about the students, me, how fulfilled I am to see these young people just starting from not knowing anything about cybersecurity and being cyber experts. You know, it's heartwarming.
When you see Mzuki Simbane's work, it's hard to believe he never attended fashion school. His journey began in his mother's lounge in Khayelitsha. Despite the challenges of township life, Khayelitsha shaped his artistic expression and helped him find his voice.
That's where I grew up. That's where I learned how to express myself. That's where I was inspired by expression. Because my mom, I think my mom is sort of like the main person who modeled for me a lot of what I draw from when I create clothing for women. She represents substance. I remember saying this to someone that I always have this image of her, how she struggled because she was a single mom raising these kids with nothing, but she always was so well put together. But for me, I think that's where I saw the power of clothes, how they transform you, how they create this idea that you can basically make it through the day. And there's something that she usually says, that people in Zeleni should never look at you baboni ingxaki zakho. So I think Khayelitsha and my mom, and that's basically home. That's the place that makes me.
His brand, Imprint ZA, is now worn by some of the country's biggest celebrities. From a young age, he was creative, even when others questioned him for not fitting into traditional expectations.
For me, doing the things that I did, expressing in that way, being drawn more to what my mom did than other guys, that was very natural for me. It's something that I didn't think about. It felt like being myself. And the struggle came in now because I'm being told that I'm not supposed to be doing certain things. Now I have to sort of like become a character to sort of like fit in. So becoming that guy who now needs to play more with the boys, who needs to do more manly stuff, that was the struggle for me. But the other stuff was very natural, and it became very depressing in a way. But as a child, you don't know what depressing is. You just know that, okay, this is wrong, this is right. You have to sort of find it in you to move yourself from this to this. But also, more than anything, I had not seen fashion designers who are guys. Like because also the concept of fashion design is not a thing that is known ekasi. It's it's all seamstresses. That's what you grow up around. And I think, in as much as I wouldn't say it's a thing where other boys are sort of like suppressing you intentionally. It's also what they know as a norm.
Though he graduated in accounting, in 2014 he finally decided to pursue fashion full-time with his mother's support.
And I'm sure she was wondering what's going on. I woke up and was like, I asked her to show me how to use the sewing machine. And I remember just sitting there and using it. It just felt natural. And there was something about it that was sort of like therapeutic. It was, I don't know how to explain it. It was healing somehow. And I was doing that, and that's also the year when I was finishing my qualification. And I just used it, and I continued using it, and we never really had a conversation about it, which I appreciate. I speak about it all the time. I love the fact that when she saw me exploring something different, I was met with support, not interrogation and questions, and something that is going to trigger me and put me in that box where I don't want to explore it again.
His mother became both critic and mentor, ensuring quality of every piece that left their home.
She was very strict. She was sort of like a fashion lecturer. So I would do stuff. One thing that she said to me is that if you want to do this, you're going to take it seriously. You're not going to get people coming to Endliniam and doing embarrassing things. Like I said, I had people all over Cape Town coming through from better places which are not like Cape Town. So for her, when those cars stopped outside the gate, she was like, you're going to give people the right thing. You're going to give people quality. So I would work the whole night on something, and I would wake up, it's unpicked, and I need to do it properly. It wasn't about just doing it for the sake of doing it. So again, I think she became my quality controller and the lecturer in a way.
Mbane has since showcased his work across the continent and the world. But behind the rise is a long, unseen struggle.
That's what people say. You become an overnight success, but they don't know the journey that makes up that moment. For instance, with that opportunity that I got to showcase at South African Men's Week, Cape Town Fashion Week, when I did that, I kid you not, I was scouted to do Ghana in the same year. This was 2015. I did 2 fashion weeks in Cape Town. I'm scouted to do Ghana. When I'm in Ghana, I'm scouted to do Nigeria in the same year. So all those things, when people look at it, it's like, oh, you just blew out of nowhere, but no one knows the sleepless nights, the having to teach yourself, the catching taxis from Khayelitsha, because that commute, there's a lot that comes with wanting to achieve certain things, and I think that's another thing that we also need to sort of like highlight. Khayelitsha, there's a lot of or townships, if I can generalize. The dreams come with a lot of challenges that go beyond the challenges that other people have when they want to achieve those dreams if they're outside of the townships. Because your thing has to also confront the challenges that come with being located there. Just the movement of wanting to participate in a world that's outside of, because fashion is not a Khayelitsha thing. So for me to become imprint the brand that it is now, I had to figure out a way to seamlessly remove it from being a Khayelitsha brand to being a brand that is sort of like palatable for the people that were meant to consume it. So even that struggle is a challenge. The taxis, having to catch a taxi, carrying a lot of fabrics, and there's a lot, and it challenges you, but it sort of like also teaches you a lot about yourself and how to interact with people.
The stories of Mzuki Simbane, Mamela Lutuli, and Dr. Vuyani Mhlomi remind us that even in toughest environments, talent grows, ambition survives, and hope takes root. These are the flowers of Khayelitsha.